Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. I'm your host, Rex, Lore Dude. Today we'll be talking about the most amazing thing in the entire world, my mother, who, for those of you not aware, is coming to visit this afternoon. In fact, as immediately after both Loreweek and then the two Streaminations, I am going to go and pick her up from the airport. Don't worry, I'm ready to go. Like, I have my clothes already laid out. I'm a clean person, so I didn't have to clean my apartment. It's just clean, and that's not bragging. That's like advice. If you're always clean, you don't have to worry about cleaning. Really, it's just if you want the other advice is it's easier to clean if you clean a little bit at a time all the time, right? You just oh no, I have to do 3 dishes. Shh, done. You know. Food for thought, food for thought. Anyways, so, first, as usual, I do want to start with some show news. So I already mentioned that news. My mom is going to be here. I'm not 100% sure when I'm going to be streaming again. I already know the next 2 things I'll be streaming. I'm not going to tell you what they are because I'm evil. Telltale. And I don't know when that's going to be exactly. But I am not going to be... I absolutely will not be streaming Monday or Tuesday, period. That's completely locked out. Might Wednesday? Probably not. Might Thursday. That's a slightly higher chance. The latest I'll be streaming again is Friday. I'll go and tell you that. So, but yeah, I'm taking a break, a.k.a. going and visiting my mom. Or she's visiting me, or however you want to think of that. Now, the next thing I want to comment on show-wise is just kind of, this is mostly signal boosting. I'm going to mention this for several weeks in a row. The Patreon, so every month on the 5th, and I have a calendar update set for it and everything. Every month on the 5th, I put out a patron-only post on Patreon. This post it's going to be labeled, December Patreon funding or whatever, something like that. I'll come up with something. And that'll be $23 million, by the way, Ethel. And what it'll be is you respond to that post saying if you want to put your monthly Patreon funding towards a future stream. Basically the exact same thing you do with bits and subs and donations, right? Now, we've already done this. It got a huge amount of positive response. I've already had several viewers who have basically stopped being Twitch subbers, like Wilson just now, and have become Patreon subbers, and because now they can put their Patreon sub towards streams. So FYI, it requires a little more manual work because you have to manually respond to that post, and I have to manually check to make sure you're real. But that is a new system. I don't mind the tiny bit of extra work, and then we're going to be doing that going forward because it's been working out well. Thank you very, very much, Wilson. Much obliged, as ever, and appreciative, sir. Thank you. And you know the question, if you happen to know where you'd like to put that, let me know. Does this affect the colored bars? Yes. In fact, this is going to directly impact those because it's going to be put towards that. So, for example, your Patreon funding will help to fund things. Anyway, so next thing I want to comment on, again, show-related, is the Vault. Now, I know not all of you were here yesterday, and some of you only watched the VODs of these, but we kind of have a new system. It's something you have to care about too much. It's a little bit of extra work for me, but that's okay. Basically, some of you may or may not be aware of the fact that roughly every 3 months we would do a threshing cycle, or a reaping cycle, or a Death Doom Thanos cycle, where we would get rid of all of the lowest funded runs, because nobody had really put any money or interest into them, right? And so we just get rid of them. You got it, Wilson. Give me 1 second to pause my thoughts. Wilson, 30391, Age of Decadence. You got it. Thank you very, very much again, sir. So, we've got a new system in place, and I'm going to go ahead and credit Taitu for this, because he's the first one who mentioned it, but several people also mentioned this idea, and it was something I was toying with as well. See, the main reason for doing that cycle thing is so that people would interrupt me and give money to Crosscode. Thank you very, very much, Maze. Much obliged as ever, sir. And I've got it for Crosscode. So that the main page wouldn't get too big, basically. Because as recently as last Friday, we had 127 items on the main page. And that's too much. That is way too much. Even though we have the sort feature, that is just too much bloat, even for people who are going to bother to look at the whole list. Especially given how many things were at the bottom end of that list, and arguably still are. So we toyed with some ideas, and the basic idea here is anything that's at the bottom of the list, either in terms of number of people who put interest in it or amount of money that has been put into it, will be shuffled off to the vault. Now, the vault is still there. You can still put money towards any run that is in the vault. You can still show interest in a run that's in the vault. And things can be devaulted. They can be pulled out of the vault. Now, that's awesome, and that's how that's going to work going forward. The threshold is roughly $50 and or roughly green status in order to pull it out of the vault. Those are both vague on purpose. It depends on the game. Everything depends on the game. You know me. I'm not a big fan of universal laws. However, that's how that's going to be going forward. The vault page, we have a new command for the vault. If you scroll down, you'll notice there's a button for the vault, and there is a new thing on the main page on the website for the vault. Now, if you also look at the very bottom of the page, green is 6 or more people, Micromano. I'll go ahead and tell you that right now. 5 is blue. So 6 is green. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are green. Anyways, if you scroll to the very bottom of the website, you will see that there is a new thing that I think I called locked in. I forget what we called it. But that's the stuff that is very, very funded and not out yet. Either because of a huge number of people who have put money towards it, or an absolutely huge amount of money that has been put towards it. It's not a large list, but it's there because people kept putting money towards those runs. And at some point or another, that's kind of become a problem. So we went ahead and put those down there. Now here's the thing. There's a slight addendum rule to those things. Basically, if you want to put money towards that, and you already have, my answer is going to be no. If, however, you have never shown interest in those runs, but you want to show interest in those runs, you can. I'll give you a direct example. Syldeer has not put money towards the Cyberpunk run. So if Syldeer wanted to put a sub towards the Cyberpunk run, he could do so to show, interest in a run. Basically, you can change the color, not the number. That's what that boils down to. Make sense? And as always, we count both the color and the number. Okay, so that's the vault. That's the Patreon post. I do want to talk about Coppa briefly in the show news because I want to tell you guys the 3 realities we're facing here. So one of them is the one we are currently in. I have already gone through and manually checked both of my sites as, I forget what they call it. There's a specific check, and you have to go digging for it, by the way. And I'm not talking about the one to set that it's not for kids. That's right up front. No. There's a separate check mark, which is no personalized ads on this channel. And you have to go digging for that one. That's what I've done, however. Now, I'm not looking at that right now. I want to finish this sentence. I don't want to lose my train of thought, because this is stupid. The way it works is every channel, by default, has personalized ads turned on. Personalized ads is the cookie-based ads. That's Google Ads. If you know what Google Ads is, that's what those are. Now, those ads, like I said, they're on by default. If you toggle that option off, they give you this big warning, like, if you do this, you're going to be deprioritized. We're not going to show you on the front page. We're not going to put you in the recommendeds, blah, 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 blah. And they're going to bury your channel. That's what I've done because the FTC is evil and stupid. So, as of this point in time, no, Micromano. The channels, both of them, are effectively buried. YouTube will effectively never self-promote those because of that setting. Theoretically, that should go ahead and save me from any Coppa bullcrap. However, I want to talk about the other 2 main realities. So on the off chance that is insufficient, there is a second option we can take, and that is to flag my show for kids. Now, this is... I don't have the full list, and I actually went looking for it this morning, and I couldn't find it. Let me just say that would be bad, because the restrictions on channels that are flagged for kids are huge. It's like 8 separate things that happen as a result of you being flagged for kids. Now, for you guys, only one of those really matters. No comments. At all. All comments will be deleted and removed from ability to be used across the entire channel. Yeah, you won't be notified of new videos either. whether you bell or subscribe. That's another feature that happens there. I don't think that matters too much. I'm very much on a regular schedule, so that I don't think that'll be a big deal. Every Monday morning, 5 a.m., every Tuesday morning, 5 a.m., every Wednesday morning when I wake up, every Thursday morning when I wake up, every Friday morning, 5 a.m. That's all the videos. So, yeah, anyways, that is option 2. That's effectively the nuclear option. Because option 3 is my channels get deleted. Not by me. Option 3 is the YouTube channels go away. Yeah. Now, if the YouTube channels go away, I can still put up audio versions. Thanks to some of you have been paying attention to the fact that we have the audio versions of the MP3s back up. We solved that problem. Thank you, Eric. We solved that problem a few weeks ago. It actually took a lot of work, but that is now long-term solved. So those audio versions can and will keep going up on a regular basis. I actually own and rent server space just for those MP3s. So that's... And they literally charge pennies. That's like going to be $10 a month right now. That's not a big deal. So that is probably... That's the final option. That's the meteor has collided with Earth option. You know, whatever's past nuclear. So the MP3s will go live no matter what. And Twitch will obviously keep happening. We'll lose the VODs and we'll lose the video ruminations. That's how that's going to work. Doesn't it fill up space quickly? No, you don't understand, Micromono. Trust me when I say this is a minuscule expense. Anyone who says, oh my, like for example, my own website hosting company was offering to host me storage, and they were going to overcharge me through the nose because it is not expensive to host storage. It really isn't. Yeah, terabytes by the daughter. It's going to be fine. There's a reason that Eric and I both wanted to look into a long-term solution to the MP3 thing, and this is why. It is the safety net. I have all pre-nuke Coppa videos saved locally, period. I do not have MP3s of all of them, but ripping them, I could do that as a batch process. That would literally be a joke. So if it comes down to that, I will put everything up as an MP3. And that month's bill will be a little higher for the transit rates. And then the rest of it will be fine. Thank you, Mega DA. As ever, much obliged the sub. Thank you very, very much, sir. If you happen to know where you want to put that, blah, 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 let me know. I'll jot this down. Okay. So that's the Coppa thing. That's the Vault stuff, and that is the Patreon thing. Let's talk about the theater briefly. So I'm just going to be plugging this basically every week because we're officially in what I like to call go mode when it comes to the theater. All raw footage recorded, all raw footage edited, all director's notes done. The only thing we're waiting on at this point in time is lines, and you guys have been getting me lines on a regular basis, which is awesome. We already have several major roles done. None of the main characters are done. However, we do have several main characters done up to Chapter 5, which is very impressive. And huge amount of NPCs. We still do need a few NPCs here and there. So if anybody has any interest in voicing that, all I require is that you have access to the Discord and that you have access to a decent mic. I don't require super high quality. If I did, I'd have to cut out half my actors. More than half my actors. But as long as you have a decent mic, we can work things out as far as the background noise. So that's actually it. I don't actually have much else to say, except for one brief thing. Shiryu, if you happen to see this VOD, do me a favor, get a hold of me. Because obviously you're voicing Kuina along with a couple other characters, and I haven't heard from you in a while. And I just want to kind of touch base because I haven't heard from you in a while. Now, I'm going to go see what Lord Harrimont did earlier, which was a donation. Thank you very, very much, Lord Harrimont. As ever, I do appreciate the support, especially in the face of the very real fear that I might lose half my show. So I do appreciate it. Thank you. And I'll put that towards, God, what am I shorthanding this as? Pokemon DS Explorers Sky. There we go. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm doing it as. Okay, so that's awesome. You're awesome. Everyone is awesome. I do have a bit of random news, and I'm just going to race through this because I only have a few things to talk about here. First of all, Divinity Original Sin is getting a board game, a cooperative board game, which is awesome. When this was posted, which was 4 days ago, they were like, okay, it's on Kickstarter. Oh, right, I need to get you a link. Hang on. I have been very busy this morning. Please forgive me. There you go. Kickstarter for the board game. Link in chat. I'll go ahead and make a link here for my notes later. It looks awesome. I love co-op board games. They are my favorite variety in general. It's for 1 to 4. It's 60 plus, which generally means long playthroughs. It got kickstarted in about an hour. The 160K mark got hit in about an hour. Yeah, so anybody who's interested, thought I'd share that. I am actually pretty happy about that. Here's hoping it's actually good. Next thing I want to mention here. Oh, absolutely. Give me a second. I remember that. Fife. Who? I'll put that towards KOTOR. You got it. Now, I know, right, Rax? So, next thing I want to talk about, this is just a very brief thing, but I kind of wanted to read this for you. For those of you who aren't aware or don't pay attention to legal stuff, Congress, in general, the 116th Congress, recently actually voted in, this is now done, this is now in law, basically, the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act of 2019. Now, I have to admit, my first thought when I looked at this thing was my usual thought, which is described by the word cynicism. However, I wanted to go ahead and read the law out for you. It's actually short, don't worry. I'm not going to be here forever. This is... blah, 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 blah. This determines... so the super summary here is the bill addresses Hong Kong's status under U.S. law, because remember, Hong Kong isn't technically a country, and imposes sanctions on those responsible for human rights violations in Hong Kong. So, the Department of State certifies to annually go to Congress and figure out whether or not Hong Kong... I should read this word for word rather than interpreting, I'm sorry. Let's rewind a second. The Department of State shall certify annually to Congress as to whether Hong Kong warrants unique treatment under various treaties, agreements, and U.S. law. This analysis shall evaluate whether Hong Kong is upholding the rule of law and protecting rights enumerated in various documents, including 1. The agreement between the United Kingdom and China regarding Hong Kong's return to China, and 2. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Next point. This bill extends existing annual reporting requirements on the matters of U.S. interest in Hong Kong through 2027 and expands such reports to include assessments of A. Limits to Hong Kong's autonomy, either self-imposed or due to China's actions. I like that, by the way, the fact that they add self-imposed, because that gets rid of a little niggle that could have been done there. And B. Whether rescission of Hong Kong's special treatment would further erode Hong Kong's autonomy. In other words, they're trying to maintain a degree of Hong Kong autonomy. The President shall annually report to Congress on Hong Kong's enforcement of U.S. export controls, including whether items of U.S. origin have been used for mass surveillance in China, and whether Hong Kong has been used to evade sanctions of either North Korea or Iran. Now, this is actually an interesting one. The State Department shall notify Congress... Oh, I'm sorry, this isn't the next one's the interesting one. The State Department shall notify Congress of any proposed or enacted law in Hong Kong negatively impacts U.S. interests, including putting U.S. citizens at risk of rendition to China. That's actually a pretty important one, but it basically just means China can no longer take U.S. citizens for violation of Chinese law in Hong Kong, to phrase that. Now, the last part is the one that I found most interesting, because this is... the only thing that actually has any teeth, and it doesn't seem like it does, but it kind of does. The President shall impose property and visa blocking sanctions on any foreign personnel responsible for gross human rights violations in Hong Kong. Now, you might be thinking, well, oh no, they can't visit another country. Whoop-de-doo. They do that a lot. And that also gets rid of their ability to own things outside of China. So, that's actually surprisingly interesting. And I wanted to read the whole thing out for you, because, again, I thought it was interesting that they mothered with that. It's like Chu Ren over there. He's pretty interesting, even though he's leaving. Thank you very, very much, Chu Ren. And I'll put that towards Ace Attorney 3. So, that's the law. That's the end of it. It is not a big one. That's why it got pushed through so quickly, by the way. Because... trust me when I say laws usually take in the range of years. This recent Coppa thing has been circling around for 6 years right now. 2013 is when they pushed around the change for that. So, yeah, to give you an idea. Anyways, so that's awesome. I wanted to share that. I like sharing good news whenever I have it, which is, I think it happens sometimes. Anyway, so that's actually all I've got for random news. I think that's it for news for the week, right? That's everything that happened. I mean, we can talk about Pokemon. You guys love talking about Pokemon, right? So my favorite Pokemon is, what's the dumbest Pokemon I can think of? Shuckle. My favorite Pokemon is Shuckle. Because he's just the best. He's awesome. No, okay, for real though. Let me get a timestamp here because we're going to talk about Half-Life VR. Now, I think my first thought here is that Half-Life VR sucks. It's the worst thing ever made in the history of the entire universe. See, this is why I don't do comedy sketches, Dakota. I have no sense of humor. I cannot be funny. I've talked about this. Anyways, I do have a guest here, actually, who you may have heard in the background a few times. Let me scroll up a bit so I can actually make him visible. That. There he is. And I'm going to turn you up now, so you're actually...
Who the hell is that loser?
This bald loser is Moron Man,
that loser, the
number
other
57. Loser. Well, I don't think Crobat's on the screen right now, but anyway, so... What's up, guys? So, yeah, Rax has offered to join me for this, which is great. That means I can take off. I'm out. Peace. No, for real.
So you're probably wondering, Rax, why are you here? You cover Square Enix games. You don't cover vaporware in general.
This is, in fact, a Square Enix game. That's the news. Yes. Square Enix has bought out Valve. He is apparently too loud. Okay, I can turn it back down.
I can hear myself through the thing.
I can turn it back down. There. We'll try halfway. How's that sound?
I've been waiting for about 50 minutes, by the way. Spicy blue milk. Anyway, so where to start? I've been covering or following Half-Life since about episode 2 fairly regularly. You know, I've been going through all the leaks and stuff that that have been surfacing. And more importantly, I own a VR headset, so I feel qualified to talk about this, I suppose.
All right, I'm supposed to be bad cop here. So what you're saying is that you're just licking Valve's boots?
No.
Them boots getting pretty shiny there, boy.
Yes, I've been following Valve since I was about 14. Actually, holy crap, Venters, how do you know how old I am?
He's been stalking you. He's actually outside your window right now.
Yes, I've also been kissing their ass.
I'm definitely not catching Pokemon right now. Okay, so I do actually have a couple things I wanted to mention. Poisonally. The first thing I want to mention is that this is Half-Life 3.
I don't actually think so.
No, hear me out. Hear me out. Let me explain myself.
Okay. No, yeah, you go first.
So, one of the things that has been true forever, and this is not speculation or debate, this is confirmed in interviews, they only ever push out a new Half-Life game when they think they can do something tech-wise. That's been true effectively forever. The only exception to that was Episode 1 and Episode 2, and I hate to point this out, but both of those had new tech in them.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's like, I thought it was a prequel. God, hear me out, guys. So, they only make a new Half-Life game when they feel like they can do something new with tech. I feel like I've already made my point, actually. This is Half-Life 3. This is the third Half-Life game. The Half-Life 3 that you're thinking of in terms of typical sequels will never happen. But this is the actual, real Half-Life 3, the next Half-Life game that actually is pushing tech forward in some manner, or utilizing new tech, or whatever. That's the first thing I wanted to say. Now, everyone's like, oh my god, but it's a prequel. Yeah, that doesn't really change anything. If anything, to be completely blunt, we should probably be thankful it has a story at all, because it doesn't have to. We should be thankful that it follows the existing story at all, because it doesn't have to. And I know that's sounding apologist, but my point is that there are plenty of companies that are like, here, let's make a prequel that has nothing to do with anything, and then they do so, and then it sucks.
You guys know how many Portal properties there are that don't have anything to do with anything?
Yeah. But yes, this is happening between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. It is starring Alyx. I know that's shocking news given the title of the game. She has a new voice actress because Half-Life 2 came out a decade ago. So, now I should probably explain one thing while I'm kind of stuttering over this. I did do a little bit of research into this. Of course I did. It's my job. And I've already shared most of what I found to you guys. But the reason, part of the reason, obviously Rax is my friend and he's cool, but part of the reason I went ahead and dragged him on here is because I have no horse in this race. I don't care. I am.
Meanwhile, I do.
Like, I mean, don't mistake me. I'm not. It's not like I don't care about Half-Life, although that interest has gone away years ago. But it's more like I don't care about VR. Ignoring the fact that I have headache issues and nausea issues, I just don't care for VR as it currently exists. It's just not my thing. It's like mobile games. Even a good mobile game is not going to be my thing because it's a mobile game. I don't care. I don't want to play a game on my phone, right? Same general concept. So Rax, on the other hand...
Okay, so... Oh god, where do I even start? Okay, I'm going to say a few broad things, first of all. One, I think a lot of people have misconceptions about VR that are severely hampering their perception and their expectation for this game. I'm actually going to be working on a document that will address a lot of these misconceptions for people. And I do want to get a disclaimer out right now. Yes, VR is cost prohibitive, especially for people in second and third world countries. I do not want people to come at me and say, I live in Brazil, so this is X amount of money for me. It's unattainable. I completely understand that. Okay? I don't want you guys to come after me for that.
Well, we can come after him with so many other things, so...
No. No.
Oh, wait, I did the wrong voice. I can come after you for so many other things.
Second, there's actually someone who's been covering this in a much more official and documentable capacity than I have been, and he turned out to be right. His name is Tyler McVicker. You might know him as Valve News Network. I will go ahead and link his channel right now. You can go through his, he's actually on a virtual reality playlist, which documents, all the findings through the code of various source games and Valve's work with the Valve Index and such. So I think you guys will learn a lot if you go and follow him. If this is a technical success, it will make VR tech cheaper, therefore making it affordable for more people. Yes, actually, that is an interesting point. Valve is actually developing the Index with very low profit margins. So effectively, that $1,000 or whatever, you're getting what you pay for there. And their primary motivation is to drive the tech of VR up and consequently the costs of VR down for existing hardware. I apologize, by the way, for my AC. Or they will reap a bunch of money and it stalls into a dead end. That is also very possible, Takoida. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say your cynicism is misplaced. I mean, we've seen Valve have, well, very money-grubbing policies when it comes to Steam. But we've also seen them advance both hardware and software with a very, I don't want to say altruistic mindset, but a very tech-forward mindset.
For what it's worth, I lean more on the tech-forward thing because that is very Valve.
Yeah,
the reason we have digital distribution as a concept right now is because Valve pushed it back when it wasn't feasible.
As a tech enthusiast, a lot of times I just have to commend Valve. I think the only time that their hardware has actually failed has been Steam machines, and even then, small form factor PCs are not exactly uncommon these days. Having in mind that the Half-Life franchise is all about pushing the tech, how many games do I think, as it is now, it will take for them to reach the top of VR? That's very difficult to say because I mean, what is the top of PC gaming? You know,
Red Dead Redemption 2. Oh, wait.
Even a space that we've had for over 30 years now, it's kind of immeasurable to find the top end of what it is. However, I will say we're still in fairly early days when it comes to VR. The tech is still in its infancy. The head tracking and the motion controls and the finger tracking and everything like that, that's all fairly advanced, but it's still got a lot of work it could do. I was going to mention something specifically. Oh, yes. A lot of people have... Okay, I will address Max Time's question, I suppose. To make it more stable or close to maturity, I think we're actually very close. I think we are incredibly close. What about AR? Admittedly, that is not my forte. I'm more of a VR kind of person. However, I think AR is advancing slower, but is advancing nonetheless.
The problem with AR is nobody's trying it. Actually, a strangely large number of people are doing VR instead of AR right now, which actually irritates me a little bit. Only a little.
Although, most headsets nowadays, including the Valve Index, have front-facing cameras, which it's not true AR, but you can allow some sort of visual pass-through, so to speak.
Cool.
So, yeah, I think they are trying to kind of merge the tech, so to speak.
Yeah, Pokemon Go. Name another AR game. One other AR
Yeah.
game.
Actually, I can. Minecraft Earth, I think it's called.
Which isn't out yet, but that is a good one. There's actually several AR games out now, but that's kind of my point. Name one.
Anyway, I did want to address a couple of things when it came to Half-Life Alyx in specific. Where are the questions on this? There they are. Okay, so this is an interview that The Verge did with David Sparer at Valve. He's actually been developing Half-Life Alyx. So, is this a continuation of the events from Half-Life 2 Episode 2? Is this a full story on par with a major Half-Life title, or is it episodic? Half-Life Alyx is set in the aftermath of the Combine invasion of Earth, before the return of Gordon Freeman to Half-Life 2. Well, this we know. This is confirmed by the trailer. While it does take place before the events of Half-Life 2, we actually recommend that you play through Half-Life 2 Episode 2 before you play Half-Life Alyx. For reasons that will become clear as you progress, it is not a side story nor an episodic one. It is the next part of the Half-Life story in a game that is around the same length as Half-Life 2. Jeff Keighley actually went in and play tested it before he did, the final hours of Half-Life Alyx. And he took about 15 hours to complete it through multiple sessions, obviously.
I told you it's Half-Life. Nobody listens to me.
Yeah, so this is a full Half-Life experience developed from the ground up for VR. Does this mark a full return to the series? Should we expect more? Yes. It is probably no surprise that many people at Valve have been wanting to get back to the Half-Life universe for a long time. This experience has only reinforced that. In the process of creating Half-Life Alyx, we've had to explore new ways to tell stories with these characters and this world, and we've discovered a lot of new gameplay experiences that go beyond what we've been able to do before. Of course, we'll have to wait and see how people react to Half-Life Alyx once it's out, but we would love to continue pushing forward. So I think, if the reception to Alyx is good, Half-Life 3, perhaps both in VR and in flat screen, will be a go, pretty much. Will Half-Life's return be exclusive to VR, to Steam VR, to Valve Index? Half-Life Alyx is exclusive to VR, but not to Valve Index. We continue to believe strongly in the open PC platform, and it is our intention that Half-Life Alyx is playable on any VR headset that connects to a gaming PC capable of running the game. If you have an HTC Vive, an Oculus Rift, an Oculus Quest with the Quest Link cable, a Windows mixed reality headset, by the way, the most affordable way that you can get into VR. Just to name a few, you can play Half-Life Alyx. We put a lot of effort into making Valve Index the highest fidelity VR solution on the market, and we think it's a great way to play the game, but it's absolutely not required. So in effect, this is for enthusiasts. Do not buy this. I bought this because I am a tech enthusiast, and I want to advance the platform. I did not buy that specifically for Half-Life Alyx.
The term for that, for those at home, is called early adopter hell, by the way.
Mm-hmm. I will say, I have been having a lot of fun. There have been a lot of good games and experiences both for the VR platform. So, even if you were to get into it by the end of this year, you might actually have a worthwhile experience on your hands. I use that both for vision therapy to help my lazy eye. I use it for exercise, cardio. It's just, it's got a different mindset behind it than, traditional PC or console gaming. But, I like it. Did I try Oculus? Is the image better on the Index? No. Well, the Oculus Quest has the same resolution as the Index, but the refresh rate is nowhere near. I believe the refresh rate on the Index is 120 hertz, whereas the Quest is 90 hertz. There is enough software to justify the expense, yes. However, you kind of have to know what you're looking for. Do you need the Steam VR kit to play this, or can you use Oculus VR or one of the other VR kits? You can actually use I believe, Oculus. Yes, you can use Oculus, you can use Vive, you can use Windows Mixed Reality, no problem. It is not exclusive to Valve Index. It is exclusive to Steam VR platforms, which is, I think, basically every headset except like PSVR and I think like the newest Oculus Rift, like the Rift S or whatever. Although I could be wrong about that. I haven't followed Oculus as closely as I have the other headsets. I do want to mention something. Back during E3 2018, I went and played Skyrim VR at Bethesda's booth, and that had a teleport-only control feature, or a movement feature, I should say. That is not really accurate for most games. Teleport-only is an option. However, most games do a smooth locomotion feature, which is analog stick movement. This can work for some people. It might not work for others. With the higher refresh rates of headsets, that the motion sickness that this causes is much less of an issue. And yes, Skyrim VR does have smooth locomotion these days. So they have been iterating on it. Yes, they do the locomotion.
They call it that because you have to be crazy to use one of these things. Oh, sorry, I said that wrong. They do get called that because you have to be crazy to do one of these things.
Turn your head when you turn your character. Yes, options are good. Yes. Also, most games nowadays, you can walk around a room to do it. However, if you are space limited, you can play either while standing or sitting. I tend to prefer this method. So, for example, I will sit in this swivel chair that I'm in, and I will move using the analog stick. That is actually my preferred method of VR gaming. Will Half-Life be the killer app? I believe so, yes. People have been actually asking for a killer app, and I think this is it. I'll eat those words eventually.
Which
With regards
words?
to what specifically? Yeah, the killer app words?
The fact that VR exists? No! I will not apologize that VR exists.
The fact that I like to play the game while...
How dare you!
Headset sizes. Okay, what do you want to know, Taquina?
I mean, that's a good question. I can't even use, like, the headphones you currently have on, because that'll give me a headache.
No, yeah, I understand that. This is actually fairly wide. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's actually decently wide compared to my head. Fits rather snugly. Uh, the There's actually a crank here on the back to words. Yes, so they do accommodate larger head sizes, and there is I think most headsets come with a cushion to accommodate smaller head sizes as well.
To answer Venture's question really quickly, the simplest and easiest way I could explain it is that VR is coffee for me.
Yeah, if VR just doesn't appeal to you, I totally understand. It's like the Switch, honestly. I like playing with separated Joy-Cons. Lore likes playing with separated Joy-Cons. Some people just prefer a controller.
Some people are insane and they need to be shot down before they can pollute our... Oh, sorry, getting too much into character. Real quick. Thank you very much, Aslo, for the sub. Much obliged and much appreciate the sub. Thank you. And if you happen to know, like, you can put that towards showing interest or increasing priority on a future stream. If you'd like to do that, let me know and I'll jot it down. Otherwise, thank you very much for the sub.
The new Half-Life would not work outside of this control method. Yes. However, there's been a lot of outcry about this, so I would not be surprised to see some form of a mod to bring that story and at least some approximation of that experience to normal gaming.
I mean, we're already getting / have gotten episode 3 modded in ever since the... I stopped tracking that. I don't know if they ever finished that or not.
No, they're still working.
Okay, they're still working on it. Got it. But that was something they started the day that they released the story. Like, oh yeah, okay.
What does it actually do to mandate the VR only treatment? Some of the puzzles are VR specific.
Yeah, like the interface being on the hands, that would be very easy to mod. You just plunk. There it is. It's in the upper left instead. What is with my shiny head today? What in the world? Oh, it's because of the... Okay, I know what it is. We're cool.
Grow some hair.
Can't do it yet.
I think it will be ported to PlayStation VR? I would not be surprised to see it come to PlayStation VR in a couple of years, mostly because this actually requires a decent PC in order to run. And let's just say that Gabe Newell has been much more open about supporting the PlayStation platform ever since the Portal 2 thing. So I just think that, yes, it will come to PSVR at some point. How do you make a VR puzzle that you can't make on PC? How do you make a Wii game that you can't on a traditional controller? There's your question answered.
You add an arbitrary... Oh, sorry, that's the cynicism. Sorry.
I'm sorry, but that is probably the best analogy I could.
Well, okay, actually, to go a little bit better into that really quick here, there's a difference between... I'm going to use two specific games. There's a difference between Donkey Kong Country Returns and Zelda Skyward Sword. Donkey Kong Country Returns had this. And that was it. And it drove me batty. And that's really easy to patch out because that's literally a button press. Skyward Sword had this. And it changed the angle of how you hold it and the speed at which you use it, blah, 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 blah. Now, that can be ported to a controller, but it's obviously going to be a huge hassle to do that as opposed to just getting rid of the waggle. And sorry, Max Time, I didn't actually answer your question, so I'm going to make Rax answer instead. He says, do you think they will continue the story of the storyboard of episode 3 or do something else?
Funny you mentioned that. So I think they, especially for future entries, I think they are going to be reusing ideas from the storyboard and continuing on from that, especially because the Valve Index was developed with Half-Life Alyx in mind. And this has finger tracking. Now, why is that significant? A lot of you who have followed episode 3's development might remember Alyx actually had a crush on a guy who was deaf, and communicated through sign language. That is now possible with these controllers. So I think both gameplay and story elements are actually going to be carried forward from the 12 years that we've been waiting.
Now, if I could throw my hat into the ring here really quick, I will say I don't think there's such a thing as a game that is impossible to port. It's just a matter of degrees of how hard it's going to be.
I think this is going to be difficult, but not impossible.
Yeah,
I think it will happen. You know, it's just a matter of time.
It's going back to the Skyward example. That could be ported. It's just going to take work.
Mm-hmm. When is Half-Life Alyx set? Alyx seems to be a teenager, so it seems to be about 5 to 10 years before Half-Life 2.
It is after the Combine invasion and the 5-hour war, for that reference.
Yeah, the war is over. The Combine are building the Citadel, so this is fairly, at least from City 17's perspective, it's fairly recent into the Black Mesa, or after the Black Mesa incident. Anyone wondering why it can't be played with mouse and keyboard should watch Jeff Keighley's video about it. You can, for instance, use your left hand to open a door and lean your head inside while shooting your gun with the other hand. Yes, VR is an incredibly versatile control method. Even just having these it offers a degree of precision and control that you cannot find on most other platforms, with probably the exception of the Wii, and quite frankly, the Wii is...
You mean the Switch?
No, I meant the Wii.
How did you mean the Wii? Explain yourself, sir.
The Wii is I don't want to say the premier motion control.
Even though it was.
It was once upon a time. It's the one that most people know. So that's why I'm comparing it to the Wii. However, yes, the Switch has motion control.
Well, the Switch has it basically has gyro control, which they use to emulate motion control.
Yes, this uses a combination of lasers, cameras, and gyro controls, I believe. Any other questions?
I have one more topic after we're done here, by the way, so nobody leave as soon as Rex is done. I know you're only here for him, but...
I'm not that popular.
More popular than me.
By the way, I do appreciate you guys being... I haven't gotten your question yet, Baron. I do appreciate you guys being civil, because I was expecting this to go a lot worse.
That's because these people are awesome. That's not hyperbole. These guys are awesome.
You guys are awesome. System requirements. Now, this is a problem. I'm not going to deny the system requirements for this are steep, because a VR headset requires you to basically render an image twice.
Yeah.
The system requirements for Half-Life Alyx, let me pull up the Steam page.
Real quick, I got a 5-star raid I'm starting if anyone wants to join.
I have no idea what that means.
Pokemon.
So,
I'm mostly catching Pokemon for other people right now, but I do need to level up my Crazy Norse in order to get them. So I saw a 5-star and I figured why not.
So the system requirements for Half-Life Alyx: operating system, Windows 10, processor, Core i5 7500 or Ryzen 5 1600. So a fairly beefy processor, but nothing too outrageous. Memory, 12 gigabytes of RAM. That can be a serious problem for a lot of people. I know a lot of people still only have 8. So, and a graphics card, again, not too unreasonable for modern systems. GTX 1060 or an RX 580 with both with 6 gigabytes of VRAM, which again, not too outrageous.
What's funny is I have all of that except for Windows 10. Never upgrading. Anyways.
Yeah, this actually meets all that. So, however, I am planning to build a new PC, not for Alyx, but just because I was going to get more out of my VR headset.
Oh, Windows 10 is not that bad, but I don't want it, and it would be a downgrade for me. So
Yeah, for some people,
because I have to point this out every time, as much as I make fun of Windows 10, it is a perfectly fine OS. I just don't want it. And it has no real purpose for me. Not yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's got a lot of benefits for me, for example, and the telemetry and everything, all the tracking, that's all gone. So as soon as that went, I kind of just hopped on board.
like I said, nothing for me hazardous. What will I do when they end Windows 7 support? Oh no!
Yeah, basically, it doesn't mean anything, guys. Like, yes, you're going to stop getting updates, but your operating system will still work fine.
Like, when did they stop supporting Windows XP? I don't remember the year. It's a while ago.
7 years ago.
7 years ago. 8 years ago. 15 years. We're just going to keep it going. 33 years ago.
Yes, it stopped before it even started.
Yeah, no, we're fine. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be... I'm sorry, Anthony. I didn't mean that as a dig. It's just... I've heard that argument before by someone who is a lot more toxic in their phrasing of it, and I actually laughed in their face. Like, really? Like, no, you're not going to use X7 for anything anymore. And I was just... Really? Okay. Sure.
Anyway, before I take the last few questions, because I know Baron had a question for me, that document that I mentioned before, the one that I'm going to be, listing and debunking the misconceptions of VR on, I'm going to have that pinned to our technology channel on our Discord, and I will also have it in the comments of this VOD. Hopefully the comments don't get deleted.
Oh, I should delete the comments really quick here. No, I'm kidding. I know what you're talking about, and yeah, here's hoping. If it gets to that point, we're probably going to have to expand the Discord, by the way, so people can comment on videos.
Yeah.
God, that's
Jesus
so stupid.
Christ.
Jesus, YouTube.
Do I know if they are giving Alyx arms? I do not believe they are giving Alyx arms. And honestly, I agree with that.
I do too.
Inverse kinematic arms are actually very difficult to develop. And in VR, they can be very immersion breaking. I've played games with them, and trust me, it's weird because they will have to... Basically, VR games mostly just track your height. Just to...
Boing! Rax is too tall, guys. That's what it is.
2 feet from me. Oh God. So inverse kinematic arms, right? They would have to track your arm length, both to your forearm and up your forearm. Actually tracking your arm movements is much more difficult than it sounds and is often inaccurate. So a lot of games just opt for the hands and the height so that they can get an approximation. And believe me, when you're actually in VR and you're actually doing things, it's not as immersion breaking as it sounds. It really isn't.
Yeah, no, speaking both as a player and a designer, I would say the hands was a good move. There's plenty that I've seen the video. There's plenty they can show on just the gloves. And that's all you need.
Okay, I will tackle Athel's question next. Does VR still require a lot of room to work? So right behind my green screen, I have a 5x5x10 space that I've just kind of designated for VR. American measurements, obviously, because metric is weird and I'm not going to use it right now. I'm sorry, everyone.
Metric is inferior.
So yeah, I can, move in a 5x5 area, no problem. My arm span can work in a space like that without a problem as well. I know metric makes sense. It's just...
Can we just not get into that, please? I actually am tired of that argument. I really am. Can we just stop, please? I don't care. We're done. Moving on.
Mm-hmm. So Takoida says, too much space or too space demanding for an apartment. For some, yes. Designating a portion of the room would be a problem. For me, I've got a bed that folds up into the wall, so I have more space. But yes, I do understand that it can be a problem for a lot of people. However, it is not this. You don't need this 15 by 15 foot space to move around in, like a lot of people seem to think.
Actually, I have a direct question to that. Have you played Ring Switch Adventures, Rex?
No, I was actually going to bring that up in terms of stuff that I'm going to be doing to exercise.
Brigwin, I've got another one for you. The reason I asked is because you do need a certain amount of space, but it's actually not that large. And that's a good comparison. Like, for example, I do not have the ability to play that in front of my camera right here. I do not have the space for it. I have to go do it out in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going to use that as a direct example. But if you haven't played it, I can't use that.
Yeah, it's fine. But basically, if my green screen wasn't here, I could back up about 3 feet and have enough space to play VR games, for example. It's not nearly as space demanding as people think it is. However, I will say that, yes, it still requires space. That is how games like this work.
What's that one dance game that the Kinect had? The only good Kinect game. You know what I'm talking about?
Just Dance on the Wii.
No, not Just Dance, the good one. Anyway, so...
The only other dance game I know is Dance Dance Revolution.
Oh, no, I think it actually was... Well, I'm not going to say it out loud. But anyways, the point being... that game, God. Star Wars Kinect... I could use Star Wars Kinect as an example, because it's the same thing. You don't actually need that much space for that. Mm-hmm. Like, you need a 1.5 by 1.5 square. Or a 5 by 5 square. It's actually, that's it. You got the one space. You got the one square on the D&D grid. That's all you need for that.
To give you guys a parallel, most Switch games that require motion control, because I will go with a modern example because Lore insists, most Switch games for motion control don't require you to freaking waggle your arms all over. You just need small, precise movements.
This is true.
And VR is actually somewhat similar. Okay, so what else? There was one other question. Yeah. Yes. Do you think we will see an origin story of Dog? I think that was the name of her pet robot. Yes, it was the name of her pet robot, and I think it's quite likely because even if it's not an origin story, I think we will see Dog in his younger years, so to speak, when he was, yay tall, rather than the hulking mass that he ended up being in Half-Life 2.
We might build him with our own hands. Wait.
I'm not going to make motion controls sound accepting by coaching it with pretty words. Or couching it with pretty words, I assume you mean. No, but I'm damn well going to try.
I admittedly am not a huge fan of motion controls, but...
I'm not a huge fan of motion controls. This is borderline for me because it's such a unique control scheme.
Well, to explain my mentality briefly, that's not an all new things are all suck and old things are awesome. I prefer precision. That's really what it boils down to for me. That's actually why I prefer a D-pad over an analog. Because as a D-pad in most video games is always going to be more precise than roughly hitting somewhere near top-ish. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's binary, up.
Yep. And to put it into such terms, this is, to me, an accessory. This is not my main method of gaming. I still prefer a mouse and a keyboard or a controller for something like... I'm currently playing through Devil May Cry 5. Devil May Cry 5, I play with a controller. I'm not playing it with this.
Oh god, imagine playing DMC 5 with the freaking VR. Okay, and I'm dead. VR and I'm dead. And I'm dead. Sorry, I'm not trying to make fun. I would love to see that now. Just imagine that. Just picture that. And every move, you have to do the move. And if you want to switch, yeah, exactly. And you have to do the lunge. There we go.
Jesus.
Oh yeah, Sekiro on VR. There you go.
That would be a lot more feasible, and that would be very strange, actually.
That would be extremely strange. Does anyone else have any more questions for the esteemed Professor Reximus?
No, Valvedrix, I have not played the VR mod for FF14. I wasn't aware such a thing existed. Please inform me about it later.
I didn't know about that either. Because mods don't exist for FF14, right?
Right, yeah. What did you ask, Baron?
He said, why are you so awesome, and why does lore suck so hard? That was his question.
Have I tried the lab yet? Yes, I have. I've tried both the lab and Aperture Hand Labs, and I enjoy both.
Can you hook it to your Stadia? Someone stab Chocolate Rob for me, real quick, please.
Stab him, take his Stadia, throw it in an incinerator.
Oh god, my battery's almost out. Bragwin, quick, defeat it without me. If that was a serious question, I apologize. I have no idea would be the answer. Rax, do you know?
Sorry?
If there was a serious question to do the Stadia thing.
Oh, I don't believe so. I don't think the Stadia has VR capability. I don't think Google has announced any sort of VR capability.
Okay. Just making sure, because, Stadia is all... This is your daily reminder that Stadia is still terrible. And I point that out because I actually pointed out how stupid it was from day one. And you know what? A lot of you were with me on that, but a lot of people are like, oh my god, you're an idiot, Lore, and you're just not thinking of the future. Yeah, so called it.
Does Stadia have Stadia capability?
No. Yeah, I want Stadia to crash and burn, and I mean that with total sincerity. Because, hear me out, if I might use this as a direct parallel to the VR thing. VR has a future. VR is a new vehicle of gaming. Stadia, streaming gaming, is not and does not. We already are currently at the point where streaming gaming is good. Xbox Pass, right?
Yep.
The PlayStation Pass thing, right? We do not...
Stadia is like 10 steps backwards.
Yeah, we do not need that to become the new norm. That would be bad. There's a reason, there's actually several reasons, I prefer having physical copies of my games whenever available.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, Baron did ask a question. Does Square Enix have plans to use Valve IPs? I don't believe so. I think Valve has plans to use Valve IPs now.
I don't know about that, honestly, given their history.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound dismissive, but Valve is getting back into game development.
I know they are. I know they are.
The future of Half-Life, and they're developing 2 other VR titles as well. So
it's what I already said at the beginning. They're interested in tech, which I understand. I'm with that. It does make it hard to care about their games, though, for me, if that makes any sense. Like, for example, to use a parallel, don't kill me, Rax. To use a parallel, imagine if Final Fantasy. What's your favorite FF, real quick, other than 14? Okay, 9.
9.
Imagine if FF9 comes out, and you're like, yeah, and then they're like, okay, well, we've got plans for FF10, but we're not going to make it until the tech has moved forward. It's just a de-investment point, It's like, okay, well, when it comes out, let me know. I'm going to be over here not caring until then. That's kind of the mentality I have there.
I mean, that did kind of happen.
Until 13. Anyways, sorry.
I feel like FF is kind of a bad example.
FF is a bad example, but I was trying to think of something that you and I both were heavily invested in. I could use Kingdom Hearts as an example.
That's also a bad...
See, the problem is that is a bad example, yeah.
They're such a tech advancement-focused company.
I don't know. I give up. Whatever.
There was another question. How long do you think it will be before motion controls are the only input method? The market has moved past actual controllers completely. I don't think that will ever happen, actually.
Agreed.
Why? People will have preference for this. People will have a necessity for this. Either they will be handicapped to not really be able to move their arms, or, they just don't want to move around,
or they want the precision, or they want to play older games.
Both through preference and necessity, I think that traditional controls will always have a place.
There are people who play Atari games on original hardware now.
Yep.
There are people who actually have custom-built arcade boards so they could play arcade games.
I've actually getting one of those.
I've thought about it too, because there's actually that tech. Speaking of hobby enthusiast things, that tech has lunged forward since the last time I looked into it. Because the last time I looked into it, you needed a full what do they call it, studio or cabinet or whatever. Nowadays, you can literally get a box.
Small, yeah.
Yeah, just something enough for the controller, and you can fit multiple games onto the same box.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is awesome. So
yeah, retro game emulation is pretty nice nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
If Half-Life 2 is so great, why isn't there a Half-Life 2 Episode 2 too?
That's true. He's got a good point. He's got it too.
You have a fantastic point.
All right, everyone stab Disco Inferno. Now.
Also, Disco's example proves that they still can't count to 3.
It's true.
Thoughts on VR chat? I haven't actually tried it, so I can't really speak to it, unfortunately. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's fine. I'm just amused. Do you think Valve should stop worrying about tech and make more games instead? Actually, no. We need at least one large-scale... Excuse me, Rax. We need at least one large-scale mover who has... How do I phrase this? I'm going to use a weird analogy really quick here. How many of you in chat list Star Trek Deep Space Nine as your favorite Star Trek? I'm actually not going to raise my hand because I'm tied on that, especially having recently gone through them. But a lot of people do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people who are Star Trek fans do that. What's the most popularly known Star Trek? That would be TNG.
Yeah.
Now, I bring this up because there's always a gulf of difference between what fans consider both the best or the big movers and what is considered the popular public's big movers thing, right? And this is important because Valve is a publicly known thing. They're not, like, as much as I hate to say it, Square Enix is not.
Yeah.
We know who Square Enix is. We consider them a big company.
We're gamers.
But people don't consider Square Enix a big company. Valve is considered a big company. So, having given that preface...
A lot of people who are outside of the PC space know Valve. My parents know who Valve is.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So, my point is to finally... get back to the point. We need someone like Valve who has the money and the public eye to be pushing tech. We do.
Mm-hmm.
So they're actually a really good pick for this, because what would you rather? EA?
God, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with the mass adoption of Steam and the pushing of things like the Steam controller and the Steam Link, Valve is effectively the first-party developer for PC, both in terms of tech and in terms of software. Yeah. So I think they are one of the best companies to push something like the cutting edge of VR.
Ten-minute warning, by the way.
Okay. What other aspect of VR are you referring to?
Weouts.
Weouts.
I think. I'm not. That's what I've been calling him for weeks. I sure hope that's how we pronounce your name, dude, because if not, I'm a moron. Saying that for weeks. Someone mentioned, by the way, Blizzard Activision. And I say it that way because there is actually no Blizzard and there is no Activision. I keep making that point. I'm going to keep making it until people get the point. It is one company now.
It's functionally indistinct.
So. But no, they're not quite as public as Valve. They're still public. EA is still a public entity. And Activision Blizzard is still a public entity. And Valve is a public entity. And honestly, I'd probably stop there.
Yeah.
Unless you count Microsoft.
I was going to say outside of the PC space, you've got Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft. Those are all
Yeah, I wasn't considering that.
Two of those are media companies, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, people know what Sony is because that's what their TV is.
Yeah. Is Konami movies? No.
They haven't been ever, really. If we're just being blunt on that one.
Yeah.
More AI and more
more complex work to work with. I think advancement of AI is just advancement of gaming in general.
Sorry.
Because you could have more realistic AI both in flat screen games and in the more the more virtual space.
Aethel asks, if VR blows up, do you think Nintendo will try it?
Yeah, I just read that. I do. I don't think it'll be until maybe 2 generations off, but I do think it'll be. It will actually happen at some point.
And
I mean, PlayStation has tried it.
yeah, to toss in my own thought on the matter, Nintendo does one of two things: they are the initiator or they are the codifier. They did not initiate VR unless you count Virtual Boy, which we could.
Virtual Boy 2. Oh, yay.
But my point is, they did not initiate VR as we currently know it, which means they could only codify it. Which means we won't see a Nintendo VR for another 5 years when it's a lot more done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't mean to sound like it's undone right now, but you know what I mean? Like, there's more to it. There's more investment, there's more development, there's more awareness, and there's more you can do with it.
And yeah, Hazardous actually brings up a good point. Nintendo is going more into the realm of AR rather than VR right now. Mm-hmm. However, I do think they will cross over. I think both, Valve and other PC developers will end up going to AR, and I think Nintendo will go up into VR.
Now, Gum Gum put a tell to me, but they made a mistake. They were actually trying to tell to you. Do you think Valve should have announced their new Half-Life 3 at E3 like most companies these days?
Valve kind of marches to the beat of their own drum, and I think that announcing it on its own just a few months from release is a little bit of a better strategy than announcing it at a big show like E3 and getting people hyped for 9 months. I don't think that... yeah. And as Dakota says, Valve announced this on a brand new Twitter account.
Yeah.
Which
is hysterical.
That's not exactly the most
prolific,
advertised, prolific, thank you, platform out there.
So I'm going to go ahead and kind of chop this off unless anyone has the last question. Like Huthor there, that's the last question right there, the last one.
Okay, yeah, that's the last one I'm taking. Do I see a point where VR moves beyond being a niche platform into being something genuinely considered alongside the likes of PC, console, mobile, etc.?
Why would mobile be considered alongside the PC and console?
I mean, mobile's probably not.
I'm sorry.
But I do see this becoming less niche as time goes on because, I mean, when the Oculus Rift came out, it was a very niche product. And then as the Vive came out and the Index came out, it became more and more available for people. And as prices drop and it comes to more countries, it will absolutely become more and more available.
VR for surgery training? Actually, they already do that.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's been done for years. I know it's strange to think for anybody who lives in the United States, but medical science is very advanced. We just don't have access to it because it's stupidly expensive. I could literally lose my arm and replace it with a functioning arm. That's the tech level we as a species are at.
Yep.
I physically couldn't do that. Me, the real life person, couldn't do that. But we as a species could do that. Okay, chopping it off. Now, I do have one last topic. First of all, I do want to say very quick, though, thank you, Rax, for joining me. I hope everyone enjoyed you. If they didn't, we'll stab them. Now, I don't know if it's next week or next week. It depends on his schedule, but I do want to mention something here so more people will hear it. I am actually having another guest next week or next week. Not sure which. That's going to be Lore Reloaded. For those of you aware of him, he is a Star Trek guy who does Star Trek things and also ships. He's cool. He's little different than my overall take, but anyways, the point being, he's going to be here, and I am going to basically have kind of an open Q&A to talk about Star Trek stuff and sci-fi stuff in general. Now, you don't have to actually respond to me now. In fact, I'd rather you didn't. I don't have time to collate everything right now, but basically, if you have any thoughts or questions or topics you want to bring up, do me a favor and tabulate those or think of those, and we'll go ahead and come up with a way to get those to us prior to the stream. So, FYI. I will also be on his stream the following Monday or the following Monday, where we will do a similar thing, because that's how that works. I'd be on Rax's stream, but his stream sucks, so,
I don't have platforms.
Like, he has a stream channel, technically. I'm sorry, I'm being
I
mean.
haven't seen it in like 2 years.
That's not true. You streamed Kingdom Hearts 3.
No, I didn't.
You didn't? What the hell Kingdom
No.
Hearts did you stream? Because it was recent.
Like
Like within a year.
1.5. Like 1.5 back in 20.
No, that was like within a year. I'm pretty sure. So like sometime before last November. Anyways, why is Enterprise the best show ever? Because the fumes that have been slowly gathering in whatever area you live in, Huthor, have officially driven you mad. Anyway, so I am gonna chop off the local recording. Sorry, I get my thoughts correlated.